Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad you've joined us here at our studios in downtown Titusville to stay curious. And I have beside me a person that's been staying curious for a while, and that's Mitch Rothman, a good influencer in the space community with his Man Space, Man
Man,
Space Facebook. It's NASA Man Space, but Mitch, greetings. Great to see you, buddy.
nice to see you again, Mark. Good to be here. Always
Great.
great to be here. It's a little cold here in Florida.
Yeah, he's a little further south. You live where?
I live in Lake Wales, not too much farther south,
Yeah.
but a couple of hour drive.
Over there by Bach Tower, in the middle of the state, south of Kissimmee and Orlando there. So, Mitch and I are going to talk today about some reflections of the what is called NASA's darkest week, where all three fatal tragedies happen within a week of each other, but 50 some years apart, from Apollo to Columbia. And behind me is something we're going to talk about. This is a little known and beautiful pencil by the great artist Paul Calle, whose son Chris is the reason why you and I know each other.
That's right.
And say hi to Chris out there.
Hey,
And
Chris.
talk.
Looking forward to seeing him at Shuttle Fest.
Yes, we are. Shuttle Fest. He's my co-chairman. Mitch is a big sponsor of Shuttle Fest. We'll talk about that briefly here. But look at this, Marty. We're going to talk about this in detail in the book by Paul Calle that his son Chris wrote about his dad's tremendous work. There's his, that's power there. That's the Atlas rocket they're taking off. I can tell by the boat tail. And of course, we champion our world-renowned artist Chris, who's done so many classic art pieces in space, but also he and his dad are authors of over 40 U.S. postage stamps and others around the world. So, quite a talented artist is Chris Calle. Let me put up my. I'll do that here just a second.
Oh,
So,
while I'm thinking about it,
yeah,
I was going through some photographs and came across this.
hold that up there nice and big so everybody can see it. I'll do it like. No, there we go. Yeah, there's Chris and his dad. And Mr. Calle passed away about 13 years ago. And Chris is in Connecticut in the same studio that he and his dad shared. And Chris, a University of Michigan graduate, and that's all the better education he could afford. But it's still a Big Ten school.
Yeah,
But he learned his chops pretty good there. But of course, I kid him. He's so talented and a great supporter of us. And the connection between you, I met you because of Chris, and I met Chris because of Tom and Mark Usiak, who I'm sure Tommy will be watching today. And so it's a great community, this space community. Thank you for joining it today. Shout out, there's Tom. And Gene Babcock's on there. And Dave Stang, he says hello to everyone today on a TGIF Friday where we've been quite busy. Look at Jacqueline Murakami. Says hello, Mark and Chris. Chris Calle here. Oh, that's Chris is there.
oh, and
That's his,
Jack, and
that's his
Jacqueline,
wife.
yeah,
Yeah, Jackie's his wife. I was going
that's
like
right.
Murakami. That's like, yeah, okay, that's his wife Jackie. So, good afternoon, everyone. From Bob Mayran. Thank you, Bob, for becoming part of our Stay Curious family. And Carlton Bailey says hi to Mitch, Mark, Marty. Happy weekend to bundle up Florida temperatures. Yep. It's
It's
going to
cold.
plummet in the 50s. Yeah, got down to the 40s. Be up in the high 60s for our celebration.
Yeah, I would imagine in Michigan they're breaking out the convertibles when it hits the 50s, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you have a sleigh ride here
Yeah,
with everything. If you're local, you're not going to want to miss. And Mitch, you're up here for this, and I dare you to keep a dry eye through this whole memorial, where we honor all 17 astronauts with a short bio. The high school kids from Astronaut High in Titusville put an apple on the Krista McCullough's plaque as a flowers put on all of them, some by leaders of the industry like Bob Seek's going to do his friend Gus Grissom's and so on and so forth. And Andy Allen will be there to do the honors of talking there. So Tom Celentano says, good to see Mitch here, and we want Mitch up here as frequently as he wants to come on here, because we love talking shop, so to speak, don't we?
We do.
Bob Slater, Dr. Bob Slater says hi to us. What do you think of the plan announced by President Trump in the inaugural address to get America astronauts to plant flags on Mars soon? What do you think about that, Mitch?
It's ambitious. I hope we can do it. I'm certainly in favor of the continued exploration, and if President Trump can get us there, I hope we get there.
Yeah. Well, we've been trying to get to Mars for about 4 or 5 decades, it seems like. Werner von Braun probably would have had us there in 1985
That's
if he
right.
had his way.
That's right.
And there's still, Mars is so far away. It's at its closest 35 million miles, and that's only about once or twice a decade. I mean, a century. Usually it's over 40 million miles away at its closest. And it's cold, and like the Elton John song, Rocket Man, it ain't the place to raise your kids.
And it's far.
It's like going to Antarctica, really, is what you need to think about. The environment's that type of cold environment. If it gets, they say it gets 40 degrees on Mars, that's at your feet. The atmosphere is so thin at the top of your head, it would be 40 at your feet and 0 or below 0 at the top of your head. So, but thanks for asking about that, Bob. And any of you want to chime in about some of your memories or how you feel about the NASA's darkest week, is how it's characterized, please do. We're going to talk. Oh, did I print out Marty? I left our scripts over there, didn't I? That's why you were asking me about the pictures, Marty, and I'm sorry I didn't understand you. I hadn't handed them to you, though I printed them out. So as we go live, no post-production, nothing here, okay?
That's right.
So warts and all. Well, let's talk about Mitch here for a minute, and then we'll get into this wonderful masterpiece of Paul Calle's that we're dubbing the Forgotten Apollo 1 Tribute by Paul Calle. And it was forgotten. And we're going to talk in Chris's dad's words here, what we mean by that here. So stay curious. Gary Gerald, our Vidalia onion farmer up in Georgia, says hi, as does Doug Forrest in Pasadena, California. And Doug will appreciate the artwork of, because he's an artist also. So that's how we build your show today. And you see the manned space button icon there that Mitch uses, and we cross-pollinate each other's Facebook pages now. How many you have on yours?
We're getting close to almost 17,500.
Awesome.
So it's great fun.
We have about 12,500. It is great fun to be part of educating a community that is so hungry to learn the nuances of missions and the astronauts behind them.
Well, and to so many people out there that want to celebrate the history, as we think about today, this day, yesterday being the NASA Day of Remembrance. Of course, we have the event on Sunday. You can't help but, we think about the history. Of course, the sad history is included. But I was out at went out to the visitor center today to pay my respects to the crews. A wonderful display that they have at the Atlantis Center celebrating the lost crews from Challenger and Columbia, and of course that amazing display they have out at the Saturn V Center that celebrates the loss of or honors the loss of the Apollo 1 crew. Also something to see if you have.
Oh, it is, with the door out there, the hatch, and how they, first time I went through that, I go, where's the hatch? Because I went through it, and they have these little kiosks, and what they are is their rear projection over the screen, and the hatches were behind the rear projection, and I didn't see, screen will dissolve and see in 30 seconds, 29, 28 seconds, and they did that with each case of
Yes.
the astronauts, and we may show some of that on Tuesday. We're not going to have a show Monday, and I'll just warn you, next week will be probably won't have shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday unless Marty reprises some because I'm going to be at AstroCon conference in Orlando, hobnobbing with some people there. It's a big space conference, is what it is. It's turned into a space com in Orlando. So things going good here for our museum, and that's why I'm attending these things so we can uh, be influencers among the space community, which means getting money for our nonprofit. And you all certainly have responded. I think our Stay Curious watchers are just fabulous at how they respond to some of our financial needs. And there's a couple of things we're going to talk about after this astronaut memorial stuff that you can help us with. So here's we want to just say that we're proud that Mitch is sponsoring one of the sponsors of Shuttlefest. And there's our Shuttlefest latest poster. We added John Grunsfeld to it over your shoulder there. Eileen Collins, Don Thomas, Joe Tanner. What do you think? Anyone want to go see? Anyone want to talk to those astronauts? You think?
Yeah, I think so. It's an exciting lineup. It really is. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm excited that it's sounds like it's going to be, a bit much bigger than it has been and continue to grow. So I'm excited about it.
Well, I am too. Frankly, we might be a little bit over our heads as we've gone from a couple astronauts to four, but it's great. We've sold $90 is the ticket price. We've sold over 50 pre-sold tickets. We're limited to 125 because of the facility. If we get 100, that's fine. Okay, we're going to have this thing every year. Tim Gagnon, the space patch guy, he did our beautiful shield up there. Chris Callie's going to be there with his artwork. Mike Leinbach, launch director. Jay Honeycutt, former director of the Space Center, is going to be there. We're going to give some love to Jonathan Ward and his wonderful books on Eileen and Columbia. They wrote Columbia with Mike, and then of course Eileen's book. We're going to have Tommy Usiak lead a panel there with his brother Mark will be there. Author Dave Chudwin, we're welcoming Dave to be there. He's done a couple books. You've met Dave at some events.
And read both of his books, both great books.
Space hipster Emily Carney, if you want her, she'll be there. And KSC's Nick Thomas will be our master of ceremonies. And can't thank enough the Romana Jam family for their Go History Travel website as financially supporting us, as is Ken Habacott's Space Covers, and Bid Again Auctions does our auctions and so forth. You're one of our sponsors, and of course the National Space Society and Hyatt Place, where the venue is, are all contributing in their own way to support this event that we're excited about. We're excited about it for you. We're excited about it for the space community, aren't we?
Yeah, it's you've often talked about the sort of the void that was created when Space Fest went away, and what a wonderful way to fill that void, get another reason for a bunch of space folks to get together and celebrate and just have a great time. So it's going to be a great event.
And Chris Calle, you're behind this a lot. He's since I become his friend, he's always promoting this wonderful Space Fest that was an Apollo fueled event out in Tucson at Nova Space Art Gallery, done by the great artist Kim Poor, who passed away, and his wife Sally. And they're not doing it anymore. And so I even talked to Sally Poor about it to get her endorsement for Shuttlefest. And we're up and rolling. We've got tremendous support from so many people. You can't, and up at the top there is Ellen Runyon. Thank you, Ellen. She is she has already put in the ship to me the swag bags that she's putting together. She shared it on Facebook. She did some laser images, things that we're going to give away. We don't want to give it all out away, though. She's had it on Facebook. But yeah, everybody's coming together to want to make this a big fellowship. And that's what we're about here at the American Space Museum, is the fellowship of space workers, just getting together and swapping those tales, baby. And we got a good tale to tell you today about this piece of artwork behind me by Paul Calle. Let's get a couple other things. There's your beautiful wife, Paula. There in front of our Kohler legendary exhibit that was once at the malls, and the rocket pads would flip over with Radio Shack wheels and
Yeah.
parts and gears and stuff like that. So, what Paula think of the museum as her first visit here?
Well, she thought it was cool. She'd been to the museum before it was on this location. So that's the last time she was here. So, of course, the first thing she noticed was how much bigger it is. But, um, you know, she's certainly not the space geek that I am, but she knows good space stuff when she sees it. And so, she knew the museum was has the good stuff. So, yeah, she
Yeah.
enjoyed it for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, well, always a delight to see her, and she is your partner in your endeavors here with the Facebook page. There's another glimpse at it there. I manage hours, and it's something every day that I take a deep breath and say, "Oh my gosh, I haven't looked up. Is there any astronaut birthdays today?" Because boy, am I having a busy day, and bingo, there's three of them, or something
Right.
like that, or
And that,
there's something you can't
and now,
ignore
right.
that you have to put on.
That's right.
That you're feeling. I feel like I need to put at least two things on a day, and usually do about three. And I don't share a lot of your stuff, but I share some things on there. But this guy really gets into some of the cool things, like the Gemini so and so tested their rendezvous techniques
Yeah,
today,
today we were
or
talking about ingress, egress training. So on the subject of posting, so I have recently was on vacation, and while I was on vacation, of course, the posting continues. And somebody actually asked me while I was one of the members of my group wanted to know, well, aren't you on vacation? And so, just to reveal that, you can schedule these posts.
yeah.
So when I go away, as I was in this case, I'm gone for a couple of weeks. I'm researching in advance to prepare so that while I'm gone, there's 5, 6, 7 nuggets of this day in space history type stuff that people can enjoy. And that's what we do, that's how we celebrate the history of it. It's certainly on the Facebook page. Um,
Yeah, we do. And that gives me a segue to say hi to my co-producer Marty Winkle, who Marty and I've done about 1,200, and this might be 1,208, Marty, episodes.
I think the 7 or 8.
Yep. And after 4 years of this, I feel like Florida Today's copying us, Marty. Marty gets the paper, and he starts sending me that Florida Today started a little column this day in space history. Okay, which is great. We love being copied on anything like that. And today was photos released of the planet Uranus. I think it's what you sent me today, Marty, for the first time from Voyager 2.
okay.
Mankind's only close-up view of Uranus was done, I think, in 1989. Does that sound about right, Marty? But we don't need to go back to that. I've just digressed that, yeah, space history is something that I think, like it's American history.
It is American history, and it's when you think about really the time period when the sort of coming of age of the space age, it defined a generation, really. I mean, it's the impact that the space race had on not just the United States and the Soviet Union, but the world. Um, it's the it so on the one hand, the competition between the Soviet Union and the ideas and the ideologies, and then on the other hand, the advancements in exploration and science and all the things that it sort of created, the benefits, if you will, of that competition. So, and of course, today we remember those who gave their lives in the pursuit of that science and technology.
And part of the history, when you talk to some of the astronauts like you, and I've had the fortune to talk to many, uh, it could have been them. You kind of see that, particularly at the memorials, where out here, the one we had yesterday at the Mirror, and Eileen Collins was there, and Anna Fisher, and Winston Scott. Anna could have been on Challenger.
Well,
Okay,
the other thing
but
that
it could have been them.
but cutting the other way is what the impact of somebody else's death had on their career is something that's not lost on them either. I remember Gene Cernan talking about this at an event I attended. We were standing, it was here at the Kennedy Space Center, because we were standing in front of the LRV that 17 trained on, which is over there, and just talking about, had it not been for that missed approach into St. Louis that took the lives of Elliot C. and Charlie Bassett, there may not have been Commander Cernan on Apollo 17, much less
Right.
mission
Could have been
pilot on
Elliot
Gemini
C, for
9.
example.
Exactly. It could have been any number of different scenarios. So that the loss of these people, men primarily in the early days, certainly only men, but of course since then we've lost so many, that all kinds of people, sadly. But the loss, and the impact it had on the careers of others is something that you hear them talk about as well.
Yep, it is. It's through tragedy has come a lot of positive things up there. We're talking with Mitch Rothman here, a space influencer, great friend of our museum. Elena Adhikari is on there today. Good afternoon to you, Elena. And Robert Law, I'll bet he might have a little tumbler of fine scotch in his hand because he's up in Dundee, Scotland.
Well, he's in the right place to find it.
Join his 9 o'clock hot toddy up there on a cold summer Friday. Good, thank you, Robert. And looking forward to about time for you to be showing up at our museum here from Scotland. He's been here before. Um, we have a question. We have a very interesting question, and we're going to get into the Day of Remembrance here. Mitch is going to share some history from the Apollo era, and then we're going to talk about this beautiful picture back here by Paul Calle, and his son Chris Calle's watching. And Chris, if appropriate, you could call me and you could make some comments as I get through what we talked about today. There's a good question for you there. I don't see Steve Jokums on here right now, but take it away, Marty.
Okay. Whose Apollo A7L spacesuit is Anna Fisher wearing in this picture?
And there you see Anna Fisher. Okay, I'll make it smaller there. You get the gist of it there. That is an Apollo A7L suit. Who built those suits? ILC.
ILC.
Yeah, International Latex
At
Corporation,
Dover, Delaware.
otherwise known as Playtex. All right, and so we got to see Anna in the museum. I put it on Facebook. We hadn't talked about it. We've talked about it, but the pictures I had yesterday didn't work out. So I asked her, "What do you do?" I showed her that picture on the computer. I said, "What do you wear? Why are you wearing that Apollo outfit?" So she said that it was because they were trying to train. She was one of the first six women chosen. And
Let me get out of the way. You can
yeah,
see
there
that.
she is there. So to try to fit her in a spacesuit and the other women, they tried on Apollo spacesuits, and this is definitely an astronaut that she tried on there.
And it would have had to have been a person that would have had a similar stature.
That's right.
Because back in the day, even the volunteer test subjects would use the spacesuit of an astronaut if they needed it in the testing, whose figure, if you will, was most compatible to the test subject. And so they didn't just pull a suit off the rack; they selected the suit based on whose body size was most compatible with their own. And so that's sort of a hint on this Anna Fisher question.
Yeah. Yeah, she enjoyed talking about that too, didn't she, Marty? All right, so ponder that as we go forward here with our heroes. Ad astra per aspera, which the per aspera means through difficulties to space, okay, is how to interpret that. through difficulties, or it's very difficult is another interpretation of that. So we got Doug Forrest is guessing Gene Cerdan's, Tommy Usiak guessing Pete Conrad's. So keep guessing there, folks. We'll figure out something to send you in the mail one day there. This is the Cosmosphere in Kansas, their little thing that they put up for the Day of Remembrance, which is officially the last Thursday of the month by NASA at all of its centers, no matter what day it falls on. And of course, Apollo 1 was January 28th, 1967. Challenger, January the 27th was Apollo 1, 1967. January 28th, 86 is the Challenger, and February 1st, 2003 is Columbia there, and they all fall 6 days apart there. So, and we're going to look and have a look behind this. Look at this in detail. That is almost tracing paper that Paul Calle had a concept that he wanted to complete for the official NASA arts program that James Dean was the director of from 63
Yeah,
with Gordon Cooper's Gemini or Mercury 9 flight is when it started. But he's overlaid and taped it up there to a gantry as a concept there. And this is right out of Chris Calle's family and Dad's archives there. So, but before we get into that, again, I want to have this is the plaque that's out at the pad 34, or what's left of it. And we will not be doing a show Monday because Marty and I are going to be going out to pad 34 for a ceremony there. Quite an honor to do that. This was private people put this out there. Private workers spent their own money and put this out there at the pad in memory of those who made the ultimate sacrifice so others could reach the star. Ad astra per aspera, a rough road leads to the stars, or aspera through difficulties, but in Latin it's literally a rough road leads to the stars. Godspeed the crew of Apollo 1. These sort of things, Mitch, are shared at this time of year, and you get decades away from this. And the younger you are, the more you just sort of mimic it and not feel it. But you and I are of age, we felt these tragedies.
Yeah.
And when we're among these ceremonies, we feel the families are there. So share with us what you have.
Well,
there.
so we talked, you told me that we would be talking today. So I went in and from my personal collection, thought that it would be interesting for people who maybe don't remember Life magazine. So, of course, Life magazine was sort of the Facebook of its time. This was where you went for great photography and great images. And they had the exclusive to the story of the astronauts, which also wouldn't happen today. That's a whole different story altogether. But what Mark is displaying there is, if you go, so this is the Life magazine that was from February 3rd, 1967. So the crew had already perished. And this particular story is recounting the lives of the three men. Talks a little bit about their families and a little bit about their own lives. And in it, you see they have images of the families. There you see the Roger Chaffee with his family.
His daughter Cheryl Chaffee on his shoulder, on his knee there. I saw her last night.
Okay.
Or yesterday morning. She's on the board of the Astronaut Memorial Foundation. And Life magazine had the rights, exclusive rights to the astronauts. They couldn't get life insurance, so they made sure they were paid to have, those expenses taken care of. So Associated Press or Newsweek or Time magazine couldn't interview them one-on-one. Only Life could on there.
Right.
And these were such a powerful photojournalism magazine.
Well, and then the very next week, Life, and there are some interesting photos.
Okay. We share those. Let you talk about them.
So that's February 10th. So now this is The Nation Says Goodbye to the Apollo 1 astronauts and they're seeing the caisson at yeah. So over here, this image that your finger, oh yeah, that shows.
I'm trying to be gentle with your.
There you go. So you're seeing John Glenn, Alan Shepard, Gordon Cooper, Scott Carpenter. Uh, so some of the original Mercury 7 there. And then John Young, actually. You see John Young there, the only one of the, who's not one of the original 7 in that image. But there's a great image there of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, as it happens, right up in here.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see up in the,
Get my fingers out of the way there.
yeah, that image up the top there, you can see Buzz Aldrin and Neil. You see Neil Armstrong, and Buzz Aldrin is in his Air Force uniform, saluting, standing next to Neil, who's got his white gloved hand on his heart there. You know, these men were perhaps household names maybe in 1967, but they certainly weren't the legends that they are today.
You've seen the movies like First Man. You realize that Ed White was the best friend of
Neil Armstrong. Right.
He was very hurt by this.
And then, yeah, over here, you see the image with Gene Cernan. She's holding, you see Gene Cernan saluting, and that's Martha Chaffee. He's holding her hand there.
Oh, I got you.
So, again,
Oh, wow.
that's a great image.
Yeah.
Gene Cernan. But, you know, this is, again, he had flown in space now, but certainly wasn't the household name perhaps that he had certainly became. And then there was just one other image there that I thought that they show the image of the inside of the, they show the image in there of the inside of the spacecraft. And if you look here at the bottom, you actually see this is that's a singed flight plan.
Yeah.
So the entire interior of that vehicle is gutted, and that somehow that flight plan cover survived that fire. And this is, of course, is in the just couple of weeks since the fire happened. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting, something that might be interesting to share.
That. Absolutely. That gives other people who are much younger a flavor of the tragedy in 1967
and how it's reported
58 years ago. And haven't seen Lowell Grissom show up at our museum today. He's about 88 years old, and last year he didn't know if it was going to be his last trip or not, but he frequently comes to all this. So and hi, Paula. Your wife's watching. Paula Rothman's there.
Hello, Paula.
So we got a lot of good, wonderful people watching today. Yeah, it takes me back just looking at that and remembering being a teenager and hearing on the radio, you know, the Apollo 1 astronauts sort of died in a fire, and your mind went wild. What was it like, you know? And then here I've talked to many people that were involved with this fire. We've had them on the show. We've had John Tribe, great hypergolics guy, was on the headset and heard what was going on. Ernie Rios his office was outside there, and when he was told to come in at his usual night shift, and he helped actually cut the bodies out of the couches and stuff like that. Chilling stuff, and the fire. You see it in Apollo workers' eyes, Marty. Some of the people that were very involved there. Of course, Marty was an Apollo worker at the time. Since we're reflecting here, Marty, if you have a comment about it, I'm sure some of our Stay Curious watchers would like to know, how did you learn about the fire, Marty?
Well, I was up in Bethpage and at Rubbing Plant 5 working on LEM 3. I had been coming down from been working on a lunar module, and someone said, "Did you hear about the 3 astronauts who were killed today?" And so that's one of those things you never forget, like that and Kennedy's assassination, you know, 9/11, things like that. But That's definitely one of them.
Was the Grumman workforce confident that we would survive this tragedy and continue going, or was there a like, uh-oh, we might not go to the moon?
I don't know, Mark. I don't know about the workforce. Grumman was relatively new in the space program, so as a company, they probably had an idea that it would continue, but individuals, I'm sure some would think no, some yes. In my mind, I had no doubt it would continue, but I didn't really know a whole lot.
Do you particularly remember if work had stopped at it for any
No,
length of time, or did the work just continue on?
the work continued on, and for no other reason, possibly that we were behind schedule with the lunar module. So work progressed as if nothing happened. That might be an ugly thing to say, but in fact, that's what happened. We just continued.
See, even with Marty, knowing him for so many years and stuff, I'm apprehensive to ask some questions about the tragedies because, it really goes to the deep marrow of the space workers. But then their pride, like Marty says, that they recovered from it, they knew that they were going to go to the moon, and then there's no doubt in my mind, President Kennedy's assassination solidified the fact that they were going,
Yeah, I think
even after this tragedy.
I think when you consider how quickly the matter was investigated, how quickly issues were addressed, right, and how widespread change there that resulted from the fire, and that in spite of all that, as Marty was saying, the work continued, and that's evident in the success that happened just so quickly after that, right? I mean, the fire happens in January of '67, and by October of '68, Apollo 7 flies. So
Yeah, it's quite amazing recovering from that. And let's don't get started with this Artemis program in production 12, 13 years with the Orion capsule. Let's segue here, and we're gonna go out with this on our show. And this wonderful book, hope you own. If not, you're coming to Shuttle Fest. You can get an autographed copy from Mr. Paul Calle, book of his dad's here. That's my favorite Calle image, called The Great Moment. All right, what a title for The Great Moment. And when you see Neil's face under that visor, it's something else. Well, on a chapter named Project Apollo, I'm going to read from this real quick here, and say that to set it up, in January 1967, Paul Calle was asked by NASA to cover the training activities of Apollo astronauts Grissom, White, and Chaffee as they prepared for their first scheduled flight of the Apollo Saturn 204, which was the numbers that the workers knew it as. As Calle was preparing to go to the Cape, the news broke out there was a fire in the Apollo spacecraft. It took the lives of the astronauts. It occurred on January 27th, 1967, during a test pad. Almost nearly 2 years, flights resumed. Well, in a letter to James Dean was the director of NASA's art program that was instituted in 1963 by Gordon Cooper's launch, and Paul Calle was one of 8 artists privileged to be there in the beginning. In a letter to Jim Dean dated February 4th, 1967, Paul Calle said this, quote, "It's strange how personally I feel the disaster. I imagined that because I was part of the NASA art program and having met Grissom on the aircraft carrier after his Mercury flight, it would follow that I feel the loss in a personal way. I wish now that in the Gemini sketchbook I had something more of Grissom as my personal memory to him." Well, then Chris writes about his dad. In the days that followed the tragedy, Calle tried to come up with a visual response that would adequately portray this great national loss. Finally, an idea germinated, and he started a 6 by 8 foot sketch that he felt would be a proper tribute to the fallen crew. And that sketch is right here. Put that up as I read. Huge sketch. The composition involves showing Grissom, White, and Chaffee to be painted in negative, black and white, standing before the gantry. The negative depiction would symbolize that although physically they were not there, they always will be. The grass they were standing on would be painted in full color green, and the gantry behind them would also be in full color, the bright red of the structure showing through the negative image of the astronauts against the bright blue sky. When the large composition was completed, Calle had it framed and shipped to the NASA art department. And then, quote from Mr. Paul Calle: after shipping the sketch to NASA, I decided to apply for a grant from the National Endowment of the Arts so that I could complete the painting and have it in the NASA art collection. I was turned down. The years passed, Paul Calle said, and the large pencil study was never on view. Despite repeated phone calls, I could not find out where it was, nor if it was ever displayed, or if it would be in the future. Frustrated, I gave up the idea of completing the project, and my frustration grew as I never was able to finish the painting, said Paul Calle. And as you see, this is pinned up like a tracing paper. And then he created this image out of that sketch, okay? And then Chris sent me and said that his dad was coloring it like that, colored it in like that. And then Chris himself honored his dad with this tribute to Apollo 1 with President Kennedy. And this is the montages that Chris Calle is becoming famous for. Excellent there. But Chris said that his dad was really distraught. And Chris, thank you for sharing this today. That in a way that really bugged him. He's never finished the painting. They don't know where it's at to this day. I don't think you do know where it's at. But Chris said that his dad was consoled by James Dean, the director of this program, by saying Apollo 1 did not get to finish their mission either, and so your unfinished product there, you know, is a parallel and maybe a symbol of their mission there. So a double entendre there. So I hope you enjoy that story. Again,
it's an interesting piece. How I wonder if Chris probably could expound on how the faces are sort of not there.
yeah, it's so beautiful. It's your first look at it, particularly this image here. Let me go back here. Is a negative, like it's not a negative, it's an X-ray almost.
Yeah, it looks like an X-ray.
But beautiful little hidden gem of the Apollo era and Apollo 1. Now you know all about Chris Calle's dad, Paul, and how this image, we're calling it the Lost Apollo 1 Tribute by Paul Calle. And I think it's very powerful image there, as is Chris's tribute to his dad there. So, and
how cool it is that he can combine his work with his dad's work.
Oh yeah, he honors his father. They're really a great team, and and Chris is awesome in his own right. But him and his dad also signatures almost the same too when you see it there. So thank you, Chris Calle. God bless your family and your father's. What we're about is keeping his image alive. We've got his Gemini 7 walkout sketch in our Gemini gallery there. So thank you all for letting us share that. We want to say hi to Matthew Polimick.
Yeah.
He's obviously a family friend. Your wife's saying hi to him. She says hi to you. Hi, honey. Matthew says hello, Doug, looking at his exceptional Saturn V prints now. Doug Forrest, a very awesome pencil artist. And we've got Matthew says he's reading the excellent book right now in the story of Roger Chaffee entitled On the Course to the Stars, the Roger B. Chaffee story. There's also a documentary out there of the statue built to Roger Chaffee in his hometown of Grand Rapids, Michigan. In parallel to that story is his daughter, Cheryl, talking about some things that might surprise you, and that's all I'm going to say about it at this point. Elena, thank you for agreeing with us, whatever you agree about. It's probably that this artwork is great on here. So thank you all for watching today. Marty, take it away on your question of the day.
Okay, the question was, who's Apollo, I can't read it, A7L spacesuit is Anna Fisher wearing in this picture? And Doug Forrest says Gene Cernan. Tom Usiak is saying Pete Conrad. And at 5'6", Pete Conrad is the right answer.
Yeah,
Tom got it.
that's Pete
Well
Conrad's
done.
suit. And I asked her if Pete knew about that, and she said she didn't know. And of course, this was she was selected what in 1883 or 79,
78. Oh,
70,
right.
78, 79.
Yeah.
Of course, so Pete died in 99, so he would have known that she had done this maybe through the grapevines. So thank you, Shirley Newman. She said she loved Paul Calle's tribute using unexposed astronauts. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, Shirley. And Donna
Shirley.
Martez, you know Shirley?
I know Shirley well.
Very
She's my
good.
mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law, all right, very good. Hi, Mitch and Mark from Donna Martinez. Or Martinez. Good to see the both
Hello,
of you.
Donna.
Looking forward to visiting any fundraising events happening soon. Yes, Donna, you may send your check in care of Shuttlefest. Shuttlefest will be a main fundraiser for the American Space Museum, as we hope in the day to make it a huge deal, like raising
I'll
$50,000.
follow up with Donna.
Good. Thank you very much. And Matthew Polomic says,
Matthew.
Mark, thank you so much for the excellent interviews over the years. Well, thank you, Matthew. That's very nice of you to say. And we do feel that we bring some space workers here that no one will ever hear from ever again after our show. Several of them have passed on, and that's what we like, is getting their oral histories in a Marquette way, let's say. Okay, we get a lot of history in there, but we also get stories out of these space workers, and that means a lot, Matthew. I'm glad that you all enjoy our space workers. Marty's landing some of them up. We're very busy till we get over with this NASA's Darkest Week, and we're going to be picking up next on our February 22nd memorabilia show at Beachside Hotel. So let's see, we've got you want to say hi to all those people for
Yeah,
me?
so hello to Dave Stange, Tom Usiak, Dean Babcock, Jacqueline Murakami, Bob, you'll forgive me, is that Mayron, Carlton Bailey, hello to Tom Celentano, Dr. Bob Slater, hey Bob, Doug Forrest, Gary Jarrell, Robert Law, Elena Adakari, my lovely wife Paula, and my good friend Matt Palomic. Hello to everybody, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you very much. Matthew Palomic mentions that there is a Friends of Space Fest this June at the Star Passage Hotel or Star Hotel in Tucson. That's where this event was held, and we'll be happy to promote that throughout the next coming months here too, particularly after April 12th and 13th.
Right, that's right.
No, that's which our Shuttle Fest is. But no, I understand. This is why the space community is so cool. Is you might see somebody once a year, all right. But I went to the Winter Star Party for astronomers like 17 years in a row, and seeing the same people 17 times after about 5 or 6 times, everyone
family.
becomes friends.
Exactly.
And with today's social media, you can maintain friendships.
Yeah, and how many times we've talked about, we've only been friends for a year or whatever. It's not that long, but when you have the similar interest in this same history, it's a whole lifetime that we have in common before we ever even met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a different thing as we have the astronaut memorial there at Kennedy Space Center being shown there. And briefly there, let me take that off there as we emphasize Mr. Calle's artwork. I'm a sports fan, but the space community, astronomy community, it's a different type of attraction and fandom, if you will. It really is, I think. Do you?
I do. I mean, I don't think I'm as big a sports fan as you are, but I've never had sort of uh, the star power of sports has never done for me what the star power of a guy that walked on the
Mhm.
moon has, for instance. So I mean, in that way, it's much different for me. To me, the uniqueness certainly of the Apollo guys, and of course, it's not everybody has walked in space fixing the Hubble and this kind of stuff either, with the shuttle. But I think for me, it's the uniqueness of that experience that is. I mean, it's only 12 men walked on the moon. It's pretty cool to say I've met 8 of them. So
Yeah, if you like rock and roll like I do, grew up with it and so forth, there's not a conference every year for where you can go and get autographs from rock and roll legends. It's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, maybe, but they don't when they have their annual induction. But that's way over the top. I'm talking about grassroots levels where we're putting together a little program that's going to be one of 15 or 20
that
this
weekend,
year
yeah,
where you're going to be able to get astronaut autographs and photos and stuff like that.
right.
It's just a very, and yet the way they have influenced our world is beyond what musicians and actors and actresses have, though we love them and like their stuff. Uh, you know, they haven't changed society like an argument could be for music in some ways and some movies. But Mitch, any parting comments about the things we're going through here the next few days to honor our heroes?
Yeah, well, I did before I came here. I did stop at the Kennedy Space Center, and of course, when you go to we spent a lot of time today talking about the Apollo 1 tragedy. We didn't spend as much perhaps on Columbia and Challenger, but when you go over there to the Atlantis Pavilion here at the Kennedy Space Center, do take the time to see how they honor the lost crews of Challenger and Columbia. It reminds you of how diverse these folks were. It reminds you of that in so many ways they are everyday people, but really special people. The things that they did remind us both of their everyday people and their special people, right? The things that they did,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was in the, several of them were in the Boy Scouts. Virtually all of them loved flying. They all had a love of sport, and to go down there and see how they celebrate the lives of these people and remember the lives of the people is something to take the time to do. It's a special display that they did there.
Forever remembered, like the display under
That's right.
Atlantis says they're forever remembered. Thank you, Julie Clay, for she was saying wonderful photographs that we showed out of Life magazine there. Thank you, Julie, for watching today, and thank you, everybody, as we go out here. And I thank Mitch
Thank
Rothman.
you.
We'll be spending the evening together watching Eileen Collins' documentary that Chris Calle saw the debut of in New York City.
That's right.
And I met Keith Havlin yesterday, the director, creator of that documentary. And then Sunday, we're doing our event here at Sandpoint Park. Monday, we'll be honoring the uh, Apollo workers at Launch Complex 34 at a ceremony that starts at 5 o'clock. So we will not have a Stay Curious there then. And we'll probably have some repeat shows as I'm going to a conference in Orlando next week. So thank you all for your support of our museum through Stay Curious. Hope that you all celebrate these wonderful men and women and honor their families in your own way. Maybe your community planetarium, science center's got something going on. Attend it. You won't regret doing that. So, Marty, thank you for a great job on our Streamlabs production board there and sharing your personal thoughts. And until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying, we can't wait to see you again to
To
bridge
bridge
the
the
space
space between
between us.
us.